their racial views happen to align with the same desire for the nation being for their people, right? But it doesn't make you one of them just because you agree politically about the nation and how it should be run, or whether or not you should have foreigners come in or not. Okay, that's just, if you can prove otherwise to me, show me, drop the comments, whatever. I doubt it'll ever be proven. It'll be, the accusation will be brought, the claims will be made, but they're unfounded and they're just based off of some emotional, response that they got from the news, their, boomer, grandfather, or, grandmommy, grandpappy, or whatever it is. And, there won't be any foundational like reason as to why the nation can't specifically be for the heritage peoples that live there. This is off the cuff, but there's many things that are, I think, tied up and confused. And so I was hoping to try and, kind of be able to lay out what I think people may be able to accept no matter what side they're on, but or at least not accept in like the form that like they will adopt these views, but accept in the form of they can recognize and understand where some people are coming from, and not have to like make accusations of some sort of malice or ill intent or a sinful, wicked, partiality or whatever. So I'm kind of going to leave out of this the debate about races in general. Like it does need to be talked about, but like strictly speaking, like whether or not race has anything to do with the character of an individual, or whether or not it plays a role in the types of people and like the way people go about their lives or whatever. Like most Christians, I think, that are not like race realists or whatever, they want to say that like really the main differences between people, who are acting out of line, civilly speaking, is their relationship with Christ, whether it be good or bad, their relationship with their parents, whether it be good or bad, their sort of like place in society, whether it be good or bad. So like influences, outside influences, and the only really the only internal influence seems to be like whether or not they are internally influenced by Christ or not, or maybe or like obviously like some other religion, because you could have some other religion that produces some spiritual inside mentality in you that's poor or bad or whatnot. But kind of leaving most of that aside, what we have right now currently in like the political realm is a growing desire for nationalism in multiple countries, and specifically Western countries. This is a growing desire that is being seen. Like a lot of people are noticing that this is happening, and this is like a Western country thing. So number one, the reason that they're noticing it is because Western countries haven't really been vocal about it, and they've been relatively fine and okay with kind of the way things have been going. Like they hadn't really complained much. They sort of just sat back, allowed it, and didn't take much issue with it. So you have this, this kind of you had this kind of like just acceptance and welcoming nature to to basically, immigration, foreigners coming in from other, lands into their nation. And there were always people who were against that, but they were always, this far right, this vocal minority, or this minority that didn't even have a voice, really. I mean, there were no voices. Like, when I say no voices, I mean, really, like, the news, all the news would ever mention of them is like that they're corrupt racists and they have all these problems and they hate minorities or whatever. But now with the internet and, websites being a little bit more open and allowing, dissenting opinions, you're seeing it more and more. So that's one reason why you're seeing it, whereas, before you wouldn't have. But also, I think there's another reason you're seeing it when you wouldn't have, is because those voices that were suppressed, that are now like made visible, it's spreading. The points that they make, they're spreading. Like, they're pointing out, hey, look at this statistic, or hey, look at this crime, or hey, look at this, racial bias or attack, or hey, don't you think this is bad, the way, like, this is, the way this is affecting the nation, and the people who live here, or do we, just like things that like regular Joe Schmo guys wouldn't have thought about, or wouldn't have questioned or realized. But then they're valid. Okay, these are like valid things that actually are beginning to persuade Westerners that they need to pay attention to them, and that their politics haven't really, their politics didn't have any, room for it. It was just sort of like, yeah, that's just part of life. There's going to be crime, or there's going to be poverty, or there's going to be issues, whatever. But if you can start to see where the root of these issues come from, and you can start to see how maybe certain policies enable it, or certain policies, if changed, would stop it from happening, and then you start to go, well, wait, maybe my politics are wrong, and maybe a better position actually is needed. And so, kind of like mainly what I want to talk about really is about immigration, or about like a nation, and like being, what is a nation, how is a nation, functioning. If you're in the nation, you're native to the nation, if you have a heritage and a lineage that is in this nation, or a nation, for any extended period of time, generations, if you will, you start to think like, well, wait, yeah, if my forefathers put in all the time and effort and sweat to build and create and then pass down what they had to me, but then foreigners come in and now they receive those benefits when their families didn't do anything to create that, how is that fair to me or my posterity? And the reason you start asking those questions is because you notice that there's actually a sort of degrading of what is there. Like, the opportunities, there are less opportunities for us, and those, coming up after us, there is more problems. There seems to be like more problems. There seems to be less, or like, just again, less opportunities, less jobs, less housing. It's being given to other people. I mean, it's pretty simple math of like, if these people come in to this people's place, well, they need things. They need jobs. They need housing. So they start taking jobs and housing. And now the people that are there, they have less options because it's beginning to other people. If these people are not there, imagine all the people who came in, they're not there. Then all these people, all the opportunities and housing and jobs, it's just for them. It's them. It's theirs. It's not for anybody else, right? I feel like that's just a very simple, easy mathematical way to kind of flesh out like part of what is like a very convoluted maybe issue or whatever. But and then you start to think like, well, yeah, and also like those things that are the opportunities that are here, they were created by my forefathers. And sure, maybe these people who are coming over don't have those opportunities, which is like, okay, well, why don't they, and whatever. I mean, we can, why didn't their forefathers leave them anything or create anything for them to have or inhabit? Do they not have homes? Do they not have jobs and whatever? Okay, and then the Westerners before millennials or whatever and whatnot, they're like, well, we should be generous with what we have. We've been given much, so it's required much, so we gotta there's this attitude of like, we need to help them, we need to help the people that don't have as much. Well, yeah, fine, okay, well, you start helping them, but the moment you start like bringing them in, right, again, you start bringing them in, now all your children, your posterity, they start to be impacted by it, because the opportunities that they could have had to get to the place where they could afford to help other people are given to other people. They're given to the people that were brought in. These are just very simple. Like, this is like, regardless of status, regardless of like hard work or not, or whatever, like all the skills or not skills, like just like straightforward. Like, if your employer has an option to hire somebody who has less skills, but is native, versus somebody who has maybe more skills but is foreign, well, they're probably just going to hire the foreigner. Plus, the foreigner is willing to probably take less money because they come from a place that has less prosperity. So their lifestyle, their way of living is it's already being elevated by just by coming here. So like, oh well, I'm not going to give the job to this person who, in order to continue their lifestyle or maybe get a better lifestyle, because the goal for us is like to get ahead. We want to get ahead, right? So we're going to want more money. We're going to want more things than the person who isn't. But if those people aren't here to like give the opportunity away to, then the employers have to work with what they have, which is the natives that's here, and that's going to be all based around like the standard of living that we're used to here. Okay, so it's like there tends to be this like this accusation of like covetousness or greed, or like spoiled or pamperness. Oh, you're just looking for something, you're just looking for more, you can't be content with what you have. It's like, really, you're gonna talk about me not being content with what I have and then like invite some foreigner over to obtain the thing that rightly in theory would go to me because it's my homeland and my forefathers built it. You're gonna give it to them, and then you're not gonna call them ungrateful. You're not gonna call them covetous for wanting something better. It's like they can want something better because they're from lesser than me. I'm not allowed to want something better. Like, I do have lesser. I'm looking for more. Yeah, the employer knows that, and they know that if they have a foreigner come over, they can give them less. That's just the nature of things, right? So this whole like accusation of like greed or ill content, come on, that's not what we're talking about here. Like if you're a boomer, if you have a retirement plan fund and you want to go and cruise and stuff like that, like don't talk to me about how like don't talk to me about like ill contentment or whatever. Like, dude, you're sitting fat. Like what are we doing here? I don't want to get into throwing blows or controversial whatever, but like just like think about these things. Come on. So anyway, so now another aspect is that because of social media, because of the ability to get alternative news where stories can be shared in a way that the news anchors, they have bias, and they do have a certain bent towards them. And that's all been made very clear in the last, especially since 2020. 2020 like really shined like a bright light on the bias that all these mainstream news has. You know, get the experimental, stay at home, do this stuff, whatever. Turns out a lot of that stuff was just anyway, a problem. So, you know, Westerners native to their land thinking, you know, this is just, what are we doing? Why are we tolerating this? Why are we inviting all this? Why can't we just have our land to be ours, and the people from other places can just go back to where they came from and do well there? Like, if you have all these skills that apparently Americans want to hire you for, well, utilize them in your own land. Start your own companies. You know, make your own prosperity over there. And that'll open the doors for us to have our opportunities. So there's just there's all kinds of gaslighting that happens around this conversation. It's just silly. But the other thing is this race thing, racism attack or accusation. And again, like I'm kind of trying to leave the concept of the whether or not race plays into strengths or weaknesses out of it. Just by bare fact, the natives want their native land. Westerners want Western land. And they want it to be for Westerners. So this is like the nationalistic concept. This is the nationalism idea that is being talked about and heralded and you know, opined for. Is that we want our nation to be for us. And so, like, I don't think that you can say that per se is racist or of any malice or anything like that. Just to say that, like, you know, if I have a house, I want my house to be for me or my family, right? Maybe my extended family. And then, yeah, sure, time from time, I'll invite over somebody who doesn't live there, somebody who doesn't live in my house, whose house it is not. Yeah, sure, fine, whatever, okay. But that doesn't make me like some like bigot. It doesn't make me some wicked, you know, person for not wanting strangers or not wanting to just like let anybody be in my house. It's my house. And the same thing happened. It's the same thing for land, for nation. Like, if it's my nation, you know, my heritage, my lineage is from here, then let it be for me. And if I decide I don't want to, you know, bring in any foreigners or whatever, there shouldn't be I shouldn't be getting any flack for that. It is really weird the way you get so much flack from that. Like, why is that such a bad idea that you would want it to be your nation? You would want it to be for you and your posterity, your family and your extended family or whatever. Why is that such? I can't see how you could find fault in anybody for wanting that. But the fact is that the political narrative has been, it's been such a pervasive, like, ongoing onslaught of this idea that if you don't allow foreigners, if you're unwilling to receive foreigners, that you're a bad person. Everybody just thinks that now. Like, all the older generation, they just think that, like, yeah, of course you're a bad person if you don't want to let foreigners come to your land. And there's no precedent for that. That's just a political, that's just a political concept that we've adopted. So that can change and you can still be a good person. Like, you're not a bad person if your politics change, as long as the policy isn't like one of wicked evilness. And I can't see how you could accuse that of being wicked evil. Like, there's no way you can make that out to be some wicked evil thing. So you're seeing Westerners who have for a long time been the people who are welcoming, who are accepting of people coming into the land. You're seeing them go, you know what? I don't like this anymore. I'm actually not a fan of this anymore. I changed my mind, or I've realized that was a mistake, and I think that we should change things. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. You could point out, And so on that point alone, it should be allowed. It should be not condemned, and it shouldn't be, people shouldn't be dragged through the mud for thinking that or saying that. There's no inherent wickedness to that. Now, the race card comes in on maybe on like the potential reasoning behind why you wouldn't, why people wouldn't want foreigners in. That might be part of the reasoning, and I think it's clear. It's pretty obvious that's why the race stuff comes in, and you hear from these people who talk about race in the same vein of nationalism, because it does favor their position. Like, it does actually favor their position. It doesn't mean the position is based or founded upon their racial views, but their racial views happen to align with the same desire for the nation being for their people, right? But it doesn't make you one of them just because you agree politically about the nation and how it should be run, or whether or not you should have foreigners come in or not. Okay, that's just, if you can prove otherwise to me, show me, drop the comments, whatever. I doubt it'll ever be proven. The accusation will be brought, the claims will be made, but they're unfounded, and they're just based off of some emotional, response that they got from the news, their, boomer, grandfather, or, grandmommy, grandpappy, or whatever it is. And, there won't be any foundational reason as to why the nation can't specifically be for the heritage peoples that live there. There's no moral ought that you have to allow, and you have to adopt, and you have to bring in foreigners. That is not a moral ought. You're not corrupt or wicked if you don't accept that. But I just want to sort of hopefully clear up and help to deflate this vitriol against nationalism and nationalists, because it's unfounded. It's unfounded. There's no moral deficiency in nationalism in that vein. Even if a particular nationalist has a view on race that you disagree with, the desire for nationalism, the desire for the nation to be particularly for the heritage people, the people who live there, is not inherently immoral. So I hope this helps.